an environment like today where there's a lot of cutbacks and a lot of changes and a lot of turmoil inside organizations, getting back to basics means more than going back to the same old programs and the same old things that we've been doing in the past. What it really means is there's 3 steps. Mindset Matters programs that I work with and talk to people about a lot are the 3 steps are: step 1 is mindset, attitude, philosophy, way of doing business. Step 2 is accountability, implementation, and results. And step 3 is raise the level of expectation and continuous improvement. And what a lot of organizations are asking people to do is try to jump right to step 3, raise the level of expectation and continuous improvement, with fewer people, fewer money, fewer staff, fewer dollars, and a negative environment. And what we have to do is go back to that step 1. Step 1 is mindset, attitude, philosophy, which creates our way of doing business. If we don't have buy-in from people on that, about who we are, about what we do, about how we work, about who we are and how we bring ourselves to the marketplace, we're never going to get to step 2, which is all about results. So step 2 is accountability, implementation, and results. But if the people haven't bought into the philosophy, haven't created their own positive work environment to come to work every day, they can't drive results. If they do try to drive results in that environment, it just becomes negative. It becomes kind of a spiral, a negative death spiral, if you don't mind me calling it that. And what we need to do is get people step back. Sometimes we need to take a step back and find out step 1 is kind of the foundation of everything. And if that's not solid, and we haven't addressed that inside an organization, and for most companies that's a leadership issue, and then it's an individual issue at the same time. I always do say people have personalities, and companies or associations or organizations have cultures. What we don't sometimes understand is how that happens and how that's created. There's 2 ways that happens. Number 1, it happens at the top. It absolutely is a leadership issue, and it happens at the top. But we can't rely only at the people on the top. We then have to hold people accountable inside the organization to, 1, understand what that culture is, 2, buy into what that culture is to make sure that they fit inside the organization, and then number 3, we have to hold people accountable to rally around and be not only from an organizational level, but from a department level. I always say companies, associations, organizations are built from department levels up, and then they all roll up into the whole. So we need a leadership on culture to know who we are. There's 3 questions I always ask. Where are we? Where do we want to be? What do we need to do to get there? Those 3 questions in any situation, business situation I've been in over the years, that just brings focus. It really answers the question, who are we? How do we represent ourselves? Who are we out in the marketplace? What image is out there? How do people see us? Number 2, who are we? Where do we want to be? If sales aren't where they are, if association membership isn't where it needs to be, where is it that we're trying to go to? And then we've got to have a plan and a strategy and action plan to put that into place. And then where are we? Where do we want to be? What do we need to do to get there? We've got to get buy-in from all the people and all the staff inside the organization to make that happen. And what happens, unfortunately, in too many organizations, that comes down from the top. It's just dropped inside and down on people. It doesn't work. If they don't buy in, if they're not part of it, and they're not engaged, all the words we hear about leadership all the time, they sound good, but few people put them into practice. And so what I try to do through those 3 steps that we spoke of earlier, mindset, attitude, philosophy, create your way of doing business, you've got to get, that's the core, that's the foundation. That's like building a house without a basement. It's like building a house without the foundation. It's going to fall, it's not going to work. So people have personalities, companies have cultures, but how that rolls into each other, truthfully, you have to step back, understand, and ask the question, where are we? Where do we want to be? What do we need to do to get there? Have a vision, have the leadership vision from the top, but at the same time, then you have to get buy-in from people inside the organization, and then you got to hold them accountable. And I hate to say it, but in today's world, you know, if people aren't on board, sometimes you have to help them move and find a different way to go. As you said, this is not just a speech for any particular area. It's pretty much, if you're an association or a business organization, you got the lights on and the doors open, this really does affect it. Because what we're talking about is human nature. We're talking about how do we get things done inside an organization the way they need to be done so we can make our numbers. Because no matter who we are and what we do, we all have numbers to hit. Doesn't make any difference if you're a salesperson or an association membership director, it makes no difference. We have goals, we have things we have to do inside an organization. What I've been fortunate enough over the last 14 years, people seem to come away from the speeches and breakouts and keynotes and all the things that we do to put people in a room is they come away with a framework. They come away with that kind of aha moment, but I'm not trying to get the aha moment. I'm trying to get the application after they leave the room. I care so much, not what happens in that room. Here's what I always promise people. People aren't going to fall asleep. They're going to laugh. They're going to get a few things out of it. But what I really care about is 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months after the fact, where people call me and come back to me and say, hey, I was in that room. You spoke at our conference last year. You were part of our meeting last year. And here's what I did after being in there that day. So they walk away with 2 or 3 actionable steps. And here's what I think is the most important part. I don't tell them what those steps are. Because if there's 5 people sitting at a table, they're going to hear the message 5 different ways, and they're going to apply it in their own job and their own who they are and what they do 5 different ways. And so therefore, I try to gain buy-in for them as an individual. So if you have 1,000 people in the room, I don't expect 1,000 people to go away with 1 or 2 ideas. I expect 1,000 people in the room to go away with 1,000 ideas that all kind of come under the umbrella of the message that we talked about. And again, that message is, step 1, mindset, attitude, philosophy creates our way of doing business. Step 2, accountability, implementation, and results. And step 3, raise the level of expectation and continuous improvement. And we all know those things, and we all know how they work. But what I found, fortunately, over the last 14 years, is that process and that system of those 3 steps, and I just kind of wrote them on my own, to be quite honest with you. I just wrote them by working for 15 years in real jobs, real life. I wrote them by, you know, having good years, having bad years, having tough times, having good times. But they kind of just fell to me as to how things get done inside an organization. So we're trying to get the answer to, how do I get the people that work with me and for me to do what we want and need them to do? And sometimes that's easy to do when people are sitting there right in front of you, you know, but it's sometimes hard to do in today's world. As leaders and managers, we all have real jobs and we have responsibilities, so there's very little face time sometimes with the people that we have to lead. So the question is, how do we get people to do what we want them and need them to do when we're not there?